Hello HEMA friends and welcome to this new video. So today, if you are watching this video on Patreon, or 2 days ago if you are watching it on YouTube, the first buyable version of Hellish Quart has been released. The game has been released in an early access mode to let people play and enjoy the current version of the game, while also at the same time supporting the 2 guys which are carrying out this cool project all by themselves. I had the occasion to get access to the game a week in advance, so today we are going to give a look to this new version of Hellish Quart. Okay, so what has changed compared to the old demo of the game? Well, first and foremost we have the 2 new characters, Marie and Isabella, which are respectively the first rapier and longsword fencers in the game, but I will talk more about them later. We also have a new game mode, Survival, which basically helps you learn how to fence in a less reckless way. You simply move from opponent to opponent, randomly choose, and you have to survive. If you lose, the game is over. You only have 2 lives instead of 3 at your disposal while facing the first 4 opponents, which are getting more and more stronger one after the other. When you reach the 5th opponent, he keeps his 2 lives, while you are downgraded to 1 life only, which makes the things even more complex to deal with. This game mode is currently my favorite single player mode, as it tends to get relatively punishing on arrows and quite challenging to play. In this new version of the game we also have 4 new dueling fields. Every new map is cool, but my favorite one is by far the dark foggy one. It's super cool and it tastes a tiny bit of Warhammer Fantasy Old World. But pay attention people, the aesthetic isn't the only difference. The dimensions and form of the fencing arena changes in every map, so pay attention to your distance management. I have to mention that the Sunnyfield map for some motivation is lowering my FPS quite a bit compared to the others, but don't ask me why, because my ideal technology level is a rock tied on top of a stick, so... Okay, so let's get to the new characters. Well, aesthetically speaking, I really like the design of both Marie and Isabella. They are both characterized well, especially Isabella, which looks like a bold and strong while at the same time a really feminine and stylish woman. Is this longsword bias? Who knows? Okay, let's check the fencing style of the 2 characters. I will start with the rapier first. Now, reading here and there on the internet, I've noticed that the rapier has been the only one criticized in terms of fencing style. Maybe because I am not really into rapier, but personally speaking, I enjoy it as it is. First of all, it is thrust based, which is very good of course. You have outside and inside thrusts to cover both the attack lines, and you can execute these thrusts in many different ways. You can thrust by standing still or you can lunge. And when you are lunging, you can even decide for a lunge and retreat backward, or a lunge and a gathering step forward. You can also stop thrust while moving backward. I mean, to me it's thrust based enough. Of course, you have cuts too in your repertoire of actions, which is absolutely reasonable, but the style is indeed thrust based, as it should be. The best move which Marie does is by far the inquartata. She moves out of the line while stabbing the opponent at the same time. Really well made textbook play. There is otherwise a complaint which I can agree with, about the length of the rapier, which would probably be better with 5 to 10 centimeters more. But, of course, I suppose that this may be also related with certain balancing issues. So, better a balanced short rapier than an overpowered realistic one in terms of game design. And now the longsword. Isabella is the new longsword character, and I will start by saying this. I really like this character. And after a relatively rough experience at the beginning while playing it, I ended up appreciating her a lot. Now, the longsword system is, at least to me, a tiny bit more complex than the saber or the rapier one. You can adopt various guards which give you access to special moves and combinations. From the high Vontag position, for example, you can go for a long edge fendente and a false edge sottano / low thrust combination. From Porta di Ferro instead, you have access to a false edge downward strike / high thrust from your right side, or to a regular left thrust which controls the opponent blade while catching it. When you reach longa instead, which means when your weapon is extended forward, you get access to 2 different thrusts. You can basically thrust low, which is ideal to snipe the hands generally speaking, or high, which is good to thrust and defend with an opposition at the same time. Also, sometimes when you chain together 2 attacks, you also have a slightly different move, like this Mandrito Sottano, which, if launched after a Reverso Fendente, turns into this cool false edge strike. Talking about simple strikes, I have a couple of things to say. Generally speaking, the cuts are okay, but when you start them from Breve, which is the standard guard you keep most of the time, without adding any directional movement, they look a tiny bit like twitchy tippy-tappy sport saber cuts. That's of course inevitable because this is the only way in which you can cut from that position. My opinion on this is that I would probably have preferred to see 2 thrusts here, instead of the reversi tippy-tappy cuts, which are looking really rubbish. Having a low and a high thrust instead of the reversi would make the weapon style look more clean and iconic. Anyway, among the 4 standard cuts, the only 2 which looks rubbish are basically the standard reversi, as I said, which as pushed cuts starting from Breve tend to look and work in a bad way. The Mandrito Fendente as a pushed cut is okay to me, as the only reliable pushed cut in the longsword is basically the vertical one. While adding directional movements instead, every cut looks cool, as it gets charged during the movement. The last issue in the longsword form is the left Zwerchau. It's a bit wonky because it leaves the right arm above the level of the sword instead of below, which is the standard form in which it's generally executed. Okay, so I have been a little bit more pedantic with the longsword because it is my favorite weapon. But I want to be clear, I consider the longsword fencing showcased in the game good in its complex, and I personally find the longsword character the most fun to play. Well guys, everything considered, this new version of Hellish Quart is improved a lot, and I find it even more fun. I consider the mechanics being really fencing-like in many occasions. The rapier and the longsword add variety to the game, and the constant increase in the number of deployable characters makes me looking forward toward further developments. Well guys, if you want to know more about the game, check the link in the description. And remember that if you want to help this channel grow up, you can check my Patreon page. Link in the description too. A lot of exclusive nerdy fencing stuff awaits you there. Thanks for watching people, and as always, see you next time.